Hey YouTube, I'm Lisa and today we'll be making 3 easy small cast iron pan recipes. So I recently got this small cast iron pan by Lodge. It's an 8-inch pan and I got this because I wanted to make Tart Tatin. I should make a separate video about this. But I really hate having tools that I use only for one thing. So once I got it, I immediately started looking for other recipes that I can use it for. So today I wanted to share with you some other recipes that I found that I could make with it. They're really easy and fun to make for breakfast, and I hope you enjoy them. So let's get on with it. So for the first recipe, we're going to need 4 eggs, some butter, sour cream, white flour, baking soda, and our toppings. So mushrooms, onions, tomatoes, and definitely some Parmesan cheese. We're going to start by chopping up the vegetables to medium-sized chunks. What's really nice about this recipe though is that you can use any type of toppings. You can use peppers, garlic, ham, etc. But this is my favorite combination and actually also what I had in my fridge. We're going to start by heating up our cast iron pan. Look at how tiny and cute it is. And melting up some butter to fry our mushrooms and onions. I feel like mushrooms and onions are even better after they've been cooked in butter for a few minutes, but I actually like my cherry tomatoes to retain their freshness. No need to cook everything through, just give it some nice color. Now we can set aside the vegetables, but remember the cast iron pan is hot, so it's going to continue cooking the vegetables a little bit while we make our batter. So we're going to combine 4 eggs, a little bit of salt, 1 tablespoon of flour, 1 dollop of sour cream or yogurt, half a teaspoon of soda, and mix it together using a whisk or a fork until it's fully combined. Once smooth, we're going to go ahead and add the cheese and all other vegetables. In this case, it's our tomatoes, mushrooms, onions, and any other stuff that you might want to add. Mix it again just to combine and then set aside. Our pan is still hot, so we can use that residual heat to melt a generous amount of butter. I'm using about 1 tablespoon because the more the merrier. Now we can transfer the batter into the pan, add some additional salt and pepper to taste, and make sure that the toppings are distributed evenly across the pan. The pan goes into an oven preheated to about 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and it bakes for about 15 to 20 minutes until puffy and golden. When you take out the pan from the oven, make sure to let it rest for a minute before slicing it and serving it with a fresh salad and a selection of cheeses. So for the next recipe, I followed Brian Lagerstrom's excellent 2 up to 24-hour focaccia recipe, and I cut it in half to match the 8-inch pan. For this recipe, we're going to need bread flour, yeast, olive oil, sugar, and salt. And for the toppings, I'm going to use Atlantic salt, rosemary, and real Kalamata olives. We're going to start by making a simple dough, mixing 220 grams of bread flour, a bit under a teaspoon of instant yeast, 5 grams of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 12 grams of olive oil. We're going to top it with 180 grams of water. I really like this recipe because it doesn't require a mixer. I just use a spatula to mix everything, and I give it a short knead. The dough turns out to be really sticky, so it's typical for a focaccia, so just wet your hands if it starts sticking rather than adding flour. Now set the dough aside to rest for about 15 minutes while we do our funky little dance, and then we can attempt to perform the magical dough stretching and folding method. I found it a little challenging to do with a smaller amount of dough, but you can still do it. Take the dough from one side, stretch it and fold it over itself, and repeat until the dough forms into a nice little ball, and then set aside for about 2 hours or even longer in the fridge. Just don't forget to brush it with olive oil like I forgot to. Once the dough is rested and doubled in volume, oil our little pan generously and transfer the dough. If the dough is not fully relaxed and doesn't fit the form easily, dimple it a little bit and let it sit and relax for an additional 30 minutes or so it has time to settle in for baking. Finally, top it with additional olive oil, though don't overdo that, and poke the dough with your fingers to create some more dimples. Use any toppings of your choice and bake in an oven preheated to 260 Celsius or 500 Fahrenheit, which is actually the highest setting for my oven, for about 15 minutes or until the focaccia gets nice and golden color. For our last recipe, and actually my favorite one, we're going to need sugar, milk, flour, butter, vanilla extract, a couple of eggs, maple syrup, dusting sugar, and some berries for serving. And what makes this recipe so easy is that you just need to combine all of the ingredients in a blender. We add the eggs, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, half a cup of milk, half a cup of flour, 2 tablespoons of sugar, a pinch of salt, and a little vanilla extract, and we blend it until it's frothy and smooth. The blender is essential here as you want the batter to have the texture similar to that of a milkshake, and that will create the bit of magic you're about to see. Preheat the pan in an oven set to 200 degrees Celsius, melt a generous amount of butter, and pour the mixture right in and bake for about 15 minutes until it reaches its devilish maximum height.